Neptune is in the 28th degree of Pisces, and it stays there for a very long time, until August. We have to really get this message then, that Neptune's wanting us to understand the message of 28 Pisces. And when we're trying to understand Neptune's teachings, we have to move away from the normality of thinking that's typical in society. Neptune is glamour, it is creativity, it is making us make up reality, because reality doesn't exist in any objective sense. No two people see the same thing in the same way. We make it up. This is the principle of Neptune. And so we're studying how we do that when we look at the Sabian degree in which Neptune is at the moment. We change how we make up the nature of our life experience as Neptune moves from one degree to the next, backwards and forwards. Very, very slowly we evolve our sense of reality. It just gets more and more us-like rather than real. We don't know reality, we can't know reality, and we never will as long as we are wedded to the idea of self. It's only when we release self totally that we can actually know the truth of reality, which is an absolute. It's not a thing that we can get. And Neptune just takes us through the process of unfolding the zodiac again and again and again over its huge cycles of time. So little by little, one step at a time, we're unfolding the mystery of Neptune. And we've come to its mystery, Pisces 28. And this is very late in the zodiac. There's only 2 more mysteries to go before Aries takes over Neptune's interpretation. So at this stage, we're coming into a sense of bringing it all together, all of the things that have been taught as Neptune went from the 1st degree of Aries some 176 years ago to where it is now. All of these lessons are brought together in the last little expression of Pisces. And this expression is called faith, or the realization of faith. And so we're understanding that having learned all that we need to learn and coming to the very, very last lesson, which is the realization of faith. Not just faith, but the realization of it, making it real. This applies for all of the planets, and here we have Neptune going into that degree. Well, that expression. So Neptune doesn't like realizing anything. It's not about realization. It's about the opposite: idealization, fancy, creativity, making it up, imagination. It's not what other agencies of determination would say is real. That would be Saturn's job, for example. So Neptune going into this expression of realization of faith. There's a paradox here, and that paradox is that the realization that we need is that it's not real. We need to come to the awareness that all that we see is illusion, and it's subjective. It's our illusion. We're living in a fancy, a dream world, and that dream world is exactly unique to us. People share some parts of it with us. We all hang out in the same city, and so we've all got the illusion that we live in a city. So that's what brings people together. They share illusions to some extent. But when it comes down to your own personal take on life, how you feel about it, what you think about it, what you decide to do next, entirely subjective. Now, some people underwrite their whole life experience with the expectation of scarcity and lack and hunger and hardship and all those words. And that does apply to the vast majority of people alive today. Most people think of this earth plane as hard, harsh, a place to suffer in. And actually, many of the spiritual teachings have persuaded people when they're too young to work it out for themselves that that is the case. This is also true in the world of economics, where the very first thing you learn on day one of your economics class is that economics is the study of scarcity. And the implication is that everything is scarce, even fresh air. You pay for decent air in some of the cities in the world nowadays. You put a coin in a meter, a coin in a machine on the road, and you take a dose of oxygen in Tokyo, I think. How absurd can you get where we have to pay for air? And we pay for water because even though water should be free, it's where we don't want it. We want it here. So we pipe it to ourselves. The rainwater, we could collect it, but we don't. So everything is scarce is the image of economics, and they've structured the business world on that basis. When Neptune gets involved in this very idea, he's got a different point of view. Pisces 28, a fertile garden under the full moon. Enough is a feast. Sufism teaches of 7 planes of existence, each with its special mystery. And the mystery of the earth plane is abundance. The self-denial within asceticism may well be an important stage by which we learn to let go of need. But a more advanced level of development is typified by having no embarrassment about desire and fulfillment. It takes mastery to cope with both sides of the challenges of physical life. The first test is to determine whether we can create plenty. The next is to learn that the feeling of abundance is not supported by greed. Enough is a feast. Now, this wisdom is true for each of the planets, so we're looking at Neptune's take on this idea. But first of all, we have the idea of 2 sides of coping with life. One is to create that which you desire, and the other is not to get attached to that. Now, it's quite hard to create something unless you're attached to the outcome. You have to focus, you have to intend, pull your tendons together in a certain direction in order to achieve what you want to achieve. So having reached the goal of, let's assume, abundance, can you soften your way of being so that you're not pushing anymore, but you're enjoying? So many people work so hard for so long to get what they think will make them happy, and they find that when they get there, they've got so conditioned to wanting to push that they go for more and more and more, and they keep on trying to get what they've actually got some time ago, having forgotten to release the attachment to that abundance, that choice of abundance. So there's a lot to unpack in this. It's a fairly subtle thing to try to do to get to that level of mastery where you can create anything you want whenever you want it, and then change your mind about what you want again and again and again, so that you're not attached to any particular outcome. But, we could also say you're not particularly attached to abundance, measured in terms that other people would measure it. So you don't need a bank account or a big car or a big house to feel blessed with abundance. the inner mystery of abundance is enough for you. And I think this is where we're going with our understanding of what Neptune is trying to teach at the moment, to try and internalize our sense of what abundance is. Abundance is not greed. Greed is leading us to the inevitability that we will actually lack the feeling of abundance. If you're attached to more and more and more for the sake of getting more, or because you want externalized evidence of your wealth or richness of being, and perhaps you even want to compare yourself to someone else and measure what they have against what you have, all of these things are making it really very unlikely that you would ever actually feel fulfilled, because the very attitude of wanting more is a statement to yourself that you haven't got enough. So we're looking for a sense of fulfillment, and in the sense of Neptune being fulfilled, it is likely to have a spiritual dimension. It's likely to do with the meaning that you give to life, therefore. Neptune makes up the meaning of our lives in this creative way of its own. And it kind of glamorizes things, it idealizes things. And that's a part of our process, to idealize what we would want to do with our lives. Perhaps we want to make a statement of who we are in a spiritual way. And that would give life meaning to us. And yet, spirituality is not obedience to the Bible or the Quran or any other scripture. That's religion. Spirituality is that sense we have of a unified consciousness between physical reality and spiritual reality. The connectedness, the neither this nor that, but both, applied to physicality and spirituality. When we have that worked out, then we're going to feel fulfilled with life. And it is the feeling of fulfillment that we're after. That's what abundance really means. It is abundance that gives us that feeling of fulfillment. Well, that being the case, we ought to pursue it directly rather than incidentally. If we feel that eating a lot or having lots of money is what will give us fulfillment, we're then lost in the money and the food. But if actually what we want is fulfillment, then we should focus our attention on fulfillment, the end result of our process, not the process itself in this case. So focusing on fulfillment means we need to understand what makes us feel fulfilled. And there's a very good chance it is not to do with receiving physical abundance. It is more to do with a sense of inner well-being because we've done the right thing. We've completed a difficult task. We've formed lovely relationships with our environment, with people in our lives. Those are the qualities that give rise to fulfillment, the feeling of fulfillment. So that really ought to be seen, I suppose, as a measure of abundance. Do we feel fulfilled? And Neptune is able to make up whatever feelings it chooses to make up, because the creative facility of Neptune is on all levels. So it creates things, and it creates thoughts, and it creates feelings, and it's all creativity, it's all imaginary. So if we want to feel fulfilled, then we can develop the mindset of being fulfilled. Now, this has caught on in popularity in the last few decades. It's not really done as well as it might be, but the affirmation that a situation is fulfilling can take place in the form of words first, and then eventually the feelings behind the words, and then we lose any choice between whether we feel fulfilled in this situation or another situation, because it doesn't depend upon situations. So there's a process to go through. We train ourselves to see the world as being that which supplies the sense we want and we have of fulfillment by saying thank you a lot, showing appreciation, not looking for more, looking for what you've got as the answer to whatever you wanted beforehand. So that sense of turning your perception around to the perception of gratitude and appreciation and valuing what you have instead of what you don't have. This is an inner mind discipline, and it becomes a practice, then it becomes an achievement, and then it becomes who you are. That process leads you to a sense of self as fulfilled. Then externalizing that brings stuff. It's not the other way around. Stuff does not bring fulfillment. It is fulfillment that creates material evidence of that inner state of being. Now, this is a Neptunian wisdom. Neptune has that ability to dance with words, to change reality by using the glamour that words have. So if you just look around you and you see all of the things that you've got, and notice that it's actually close to exactly what you want, there may be very little difference indeed, and you appreciate that as a practice, maybe every day, whenever you can, then that will develop this inner sense of okayness with life to the level of, yeah, this is more than okay. I don't actually want anything else. If you can master that, then you're a fairly awakened spiritual being. And this applies across the board. If you want life to be good and happy and loving and safe, then Neptune will give you those things. It will give you everything you choose to require. And it will give it to you in a way which is an inner fulfillment. So when Neptune's going through the 28th degree of Pisces for a very long time, the next 3 months really, almost, or yeah, more than that, then we have the opportunity to recalibrate our sense of what we're doing with our lives. Now, this will be very handy indeed for the times to come, because the superabundance that we've enjoyed increasingly over the last 70 years, since the Second World War ended, 75 years, that has come to an end now. We've overdone it. The world became greedy, terribly greedy, and climate change is associated with that, no doubt. But more than that, our mentation, our mindset is warped. The people that have not enough to eat and they live in poverty and so on, they're absolutely focused on dealing with that. And the people that have got everything that they could possibly want are also focusing on getting more. So everyone on the planet seems to be focused on, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. And that's a kind of a madness that's gripped our society, our planetary population. We're gripped by this sense of not having enough. And Neptune coming along now is just saying, well, you're looking in the wrong place for enough. It's not out there. It's in here. It's a soul quality, that sense of being okay with the way things are, deeply okay. And whatever happens, yeah, I can make the best of that. I can feel grateful for my breath. There will come a time when you can't get any more breath. You've had your last one. There'll come a time when you can't get any more food. You've had your last meal. And then in that moment when you realize the difference between life and death, you'll realize it has quite a lot to do with this principle of an inner sense of fulfillment with self, not physicalized into anything at all. And that's when we have learned the mystery of the earth plane and the mystery of the earth plane is that abundance is externalized, but the abundance is actually a spiritual message. And I think Neptune is more likely to give us that training than any other planet.